How's it going, everybody? I wanted to shoot a real quick video. This is going to be the intro to the very last video. The demonstration that I'm about to go through with you will not work, and not because of the fact that I didn't try. So I'm going to go into the details at the end, but essentially, I tried to get Firewall 55 to be a service insertion node with inside the fabric. It doesn't work. I'm going to go through the config and stuff like that inside the dashboard and show you guys what that looks like, but it's not going to work. I just want to preface that before you get your hopes up, but this is essentially what it would look like config wise if you wanted to try it. So you've been warned. On the Palo side, if you were to go to edit on the Palo, and I'm using 9.0 code, you need to make sure you change the console to be telnet, and then you can power it on. So we're going to go ahead and power on, start it. And then we're going to go ahead and connect to it. This is going to take about 5 minutes or so for it to boot up, maybe a little longer. So I will pause temporarily until this comes online, and then with the intention of if I can get it booted up, get it an IP address that's going to be static, then I can attempt to try to connect to it from dashboard, because I really would like to get the service insertion piece going. Normally what I would do is if I couldn't get it to work by connecting directly to a Nexus switch that's managed by NDFC, I will hook it into one of the routers, and then it'll just be an extra hop in the path to go. Now, I do have another topology that I will be working through where it's going to be a mix and match. So I'm going to be taking, there's a topology that I'm working through that's going to be heavy on the routing side for Nexus. It'll go through how Nexus works in all the different IGPs, BGP, MPLS, VPNs, VXLAN, full deployment on that. I am working on a large-scale VXLAN training that is going to be a mixture of several different customer deployments that I've done, where I have to go through and there's going to be, I've got probably a dozen customers that have had some level of VXLAN deployed in their environment, and I've had to stand it up. So I will be walking you guys through like 8 different environments. You won't know who the customers are, anything like that, but I'll be taking like the specifics from each one, incorporating into this topology with the intention of walking you guys through how we got everything working and some of the caveats and the pitfalls, because there was a lot to figure out and a lot of it wasn't easy. So that is another training that I plan on going through that's going to be more use case specific, not necessarily this is how VXLAN works. I've already covered that. So if you want to know how VXLAN works, go check out that series. But that is essentially what is going to be happening with that. So I have a heavy routing one, and then I'm going to be I do a lot of Nexus work. If you hadn't already could tell, I do a lot with Nexus. So we'll be doing that. So let me go ahead and check to see where we're at with the deployment. So it boots up pretty quick, but all we're waiting for it to do is figure out its DHCP. We'll get a DHCP request that'll pop in here shortly and get all that squared away. I'm sure some folks are curious. There was a question that I saw on YouTube the other day, and the question was like, are you going to do QoS or multicast with VXLAN or on Nexus? And the answer to your question is, I will test it out, but I have found that there's a lot of stuff that Nexus doesn't do data plane wise. I don't know what all those things are. So I do know how to write ACLs and stuff like that. So the level of flexibility and compatibility that are going to be on the 9Ks will vary. But at the end of the day, the intention is to try to demo as many capabilities as I can and see what the options are. But for me, it's more like, okay, this is how this works and how to get it operational and see what we can do with it. So I'm gonna try to log in here, and yeah, see, it's not ready yet. So I'm gonna pause for another minute or two and see. I'm waiting for a DHCP pop up. Because this is it's gonna try to go grab an address like this, but it's gonna try to. It'll actually get an IP address through DHCP, because I do have the management interface hooked up to my management network, and DHCP is enabled on that network, just to make sure that things are, there's communication and stuff like that. So I will wait until it gets done. I'll bootstrap it, and then I'll be able to verify I can log into it from Firefox. And then once I can verify that I can log into it from Firefox, we'll try to connect to it from Dashboard. I have a sneaking suspicion that I won't be able to go directly from Dashboard to Palo. I'll have to swing it up to Cat AK15 and go about that. And then the thing with that comes into play when you're connecting to the outside world through a router as your intermediary device. You're going Nexus to an external router that is manageable through Dashboard. All you're doing then is you're relying just straight on IPv4 routing. You're gonna, on your firewalls, will have your default gateway, or you're gonna originate a default route. That's exactly what I was looking for right there. So it usually takes a moment. So we should be able to log in here. Not quite ready yet. Usually that's enough, but admin is the default password, but it automatically makes you grab a new password. But I'll pause for just a moment until I can get it to trigger, and then once it triggers, we'll go ahead and set an IP address. Alright, so it allowed me to type in the old password, and the new password is going to be capital P @SSW0RD, and repeat that. I think I said, Alright, so there's that. So we're just waiting for okay, cool. Now, I can go ahead and set some configs. So let me go ahead and Palo Alto. Okay, so here's what I normally do. So there's a little bit of configure. I have like a script that I use consistently for whenever I'm doing something. So if I know I got an IP address, what I can quickly do is, I don't think I can do is it a get show ARP management. Yeah. I can use whatever IP. Let me do just a quick check here. 1.51. I don't think this IP is in use. Yeah, it's not responding. So I'll use 51. What I'm literally gonna do is I'm gonna grab this. Oh, no. I'm gonna grab all this config right here, and I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to type in config and then paste it in, and then I'm going to commit it. Now when you get this is kind of interesting. I'm going to type in commit force, and this will take a couple minutes. So as soon as you start to see a number show up, it's going to be one of those things where you have to just wait for the dots to finish, and then once it finishes, then you'll be able to see the numbers show up. So we're just waiting for a numerical progress point, and then once you see that, it's actually saving. All right. Well, that took a few minutes, as you can see. So now that that's done, I have an IP address that I can point to. So I'm gonna pull this up and type in https://10.255.1.51. We're gonna go advanced. We're gonna go accept the risk and continue. And here's my Palo firewall. I'm gonna log in, admin, and then the password I set during the spin up. we'll go ahead and save that. Admin, oh, you know what we do? Admin here. It's gonna, okay, that's cute. I'm gonna type in here admin, and then a new password is gonna be what I just said a minute ago. Kind of funny that it did that. Incorrect old password. Please try again. Oh, this is cute. Old password. Okay, I am legit surprised that it's giving me this. Old password is admin. New password. Change password. Okay, that seems to have worked. There we go. That is a good sign right there that I can log in. Alright, so we know that this guy can talk to it, and all that is good. We're going to go ahead and just click on Do Not Show Again, and close. Okay, cool. So now that that's been done, the next stage for us to do is go back over here to Dashboard. I'm going to close this guy out. I'm going to close this guy out. Close this guy out. We're going to go to Firewall External. We're going to log into here. Switches. Even though it's not a switch, we're going to go ahead and try to add switch. Be 10.255.1.51. This is going to be an other device. Admin. And then the password. And I'm going to go ahead and say discover switches. See what happens. Last time I tried this with the older version, it did not work. I am legit curious to see if it's going to be able to find it. Yeah, see, I believe this is what I got last time. It says not applicable. Like, it doesn't know where to find it. So, it's not like it's failing. So what I usually will do is I just work my way through all the different authentication protocols, and then I would do this over and over and over again. Like I said, the last time I did this, it didn't work. So even though I went through all the different variations, it's like it still didn't trigger. So as far as I know, you can't add something to Nexus Dashboard that is not a Cisco box. So normally what I'd end up doing is connecting this guy to this device and doing some routing outside of the catalyst. So there might be, yeah, see, I don't think it's going to work at all. So, so with that being said, that's kind of where I'm sitting with this whole discovery thing. I can try going through some of these. Like I'll try one more time. Discover switches. See what happens. I don't think it's going to work though. I have Googled what the authentication protocol that Palo uses for SSH, and it's not clear what it uses. So I'm not 100% sure what to do about that. So what normally ends up happening, not to say that you can't connect stuff to the fabric, because you can. So I'm going to wait for this to time out, because at this point here it's probably going to do so. Yeah, see, it's not applicable. So if I was to come over here to this firewall and say ping, add to exit config mode, ping host, and it's going to be 10.255.1.11. It can talk to Nexus Dashboard. That's clear. I know that there's communication back and forth between the two, but if I go to configure and I say set the let's see here. What are my options here? Set the management config. Yeah, so there's not a whole lot of anything that I can do to this that would make me be able to get what I want. Set. Let's see here. So we have user ID SSL auth. I thought that might be something there, but network. Yeah, there's nothing in here that I'm going to be able to really configure. Set. At first I thought it might have been management config or device config. Let's try that. System. Let's see, SSH. Ciphers. Management. So I'll try to set it to be... What are we dealing with here? Go back. MD5 AES. So what are my options here? MD5 AES. Let me try, so before I do that, let me do a get show. I bet you it's, nope, let's go back to configure. Show device config system SSH ciphers management. So it's gonna let me see what they are, but not what it's actually. Can I do a show configuration? No, show device config system. There is nothing. Forget what it is. It's show something. Show. There's a way to do a show run. Maybe it's, let me exit out of here. It's going to be a show config running. There we go. Show config running. And what I'm looking for, let me scroll through here real quick. Devices, it's crypto, QoS, device. Okay, here we go. Device, system. Nothing obvious. Shows device config system type system. Okay, so there is nothing configured for that specifically. So let me go ahead and set the device config system manage SSH and then ciphers for management. We're going to set to, we'll do AES this. Can I run? Yeah. And I'll do a commit. Let's see what happens when I do that. So I'm curious, is changing the cipher type to be something weaker, maybe that'll work. Just to try it. You never know what can happen. Okay, so then I need to do management SSH needs to be restarted. using set SSH. Let's exit out of here. Set SSH service restart management. Yes. Okay. So let's try that. Let's go ahead and discover switches, because now we've changed it to be AES. Let's give that a shot. I don't have any idea if it's going to work or not, because I don't think I've ever set the ciphers to be something else. I do not have high hopes for this. But you never know. But it's not looking too promising. So if this doesn't do the job that I need it to do, I'm going to quit out of this. And then, yeah, see, it's not able to find it. So what I would do underneath services, actions, add, service node is going to be firewall 1, firewall, external fabric, firewall extended, service node is going to be, what is that, ETH11? Yeah, ETH11. And then the DC1, okay, so that's promising. N3, oh, I bet you because it's a leaf switch. That's why. I bet you if I was to move this, okay, because it's a border, I bet you a border, that's why it's not working. That's why. So let me go ahead and let me delete that connection there. And then I will move, that makes a lot more sense. And we're going to run this connection down to N3 just to test it out. E15 is fine. Just has to be an open interface on the switch. Okay, so we'll go back to here. We'll say E15. Service trunk. Okay, this is going the direction I want it to. We'll say default MTU, speed auto. We're going to say all for right now. BPDU guard no. Enable interface, save. And then underneath advanced, we're not going to do anything. Service link trunk. Yep, that's it. Save. Aha. Okay, so this is a little bit different. So we're going to go click on a tab. Period name is going to be firewall 1. So intra-tenant means it's going to be communication with inside of the same VRF. So DC1 prod, DC1 VRF prod, DC1 VRF prod, inside network. And then we will, inside network, select the service network. I think I can type in here, right? Create, oh yeah, that's right. It's going to be VLAN, I'm not sure what the network is supposed to be. Service net 1. Oh, let's try that again. Service net 1. Okay, so that worked. To service net 2, create service net, VLAN ID 2002, and then we're going to create gateway here will be 10.1.200 201.1/24. At least one IP field is mandatory. 10.1.201.2, and then this one here will be 10.1.202.1/24 and 10.1.202.2. Okay, so that's that. I have no clue this is going to work. Service network universal. Okay. We're going to save that. We're going to go ahead and attach this. Service policy is going to be firewall 1, peering name. Source network will be 10. Destination network will be 11. Reverse next hop, yep. By service PBR, yep, that's fine. Protocols, IP, any, advanced. Yes. Save. Okay, so that's all been, let's say here, actions. We're going to dive into this a little bit more deeply. Okay, so now we have the service created. The route peering is there. The service policy is there. We're going to check on this guy, actions, and we're going to, I believe it's attached. Yeah, it is already attached. Actions, preview. Okay. Actions. Oops, something's not right. Status pending. Service policy. You have to select it. Actions. Preview. Okay. For N3, so what it's going to do is it's going to create a route map, match IP address ACL, and then what it's going to do so it's all VRF here on N3. So route map DC1 VRF prod permit 1 match IP address ACL DC1 prod 10.110 to 10.111 IP any set IP next hop 10.1.201. So this IP address right here would be that of the Palo, and then we have the return traffic would be 10.111 to 10.110. And then route map the interface VLAN 70 IP policy route map. This is what I don't think is going to work. I'm going to say actions deploy. Proceed by clicking deploy. Deploy. So I deployed a service policy. So I'm going to bring this guy up here to N3. Show run VRF DC1. So nothing is underneath that. We do a show run section policy profile. Here is the attached permit route peering overview. Get out of this one here real quick. Fabrics. Switches. Okay, what's interesting about this is, even though I don't have any, I didn't add this to the switch, or I didn't add any switches to the fabric, but because I created a service profile, it sees it. So it's kind of interesting how that service. So service nodes. Sample setup. So you have your service node comes first, right? You had to create your service node. Then the route peering You can do static or dynamic if you want to do it. Then service policy is, okay, traffic from host A to host B has to go through the firewall. So if I come in here, firewall 1, and dig into this, yeah, see it's still pending. Pending, service policy is attached, pending. Can I go here and go actions, preview, and 3, close. Let me go ahead and deploy that. Deploy. Deploy route pairing successfully. Please check the update. Wish it was more specific, honestly. Audit history. Looks like everything was successful. So service nodes. I have no idea if it's working or not. Let's see if there's any update to the config. So yeah, the configuration that we see when we do that, I don't think it's working. At least the last time I tried this, it doesn't work. So underneath here, dig in, route peering, attach switch interface status. Wonder if it would help if I had the show interface status. Let's go ahead, not connected trunk. So let's go over here to, we have E15, let's go to E11. Under network interfaces, E11. And I'm going to, interface type is going to be layer, how do I make it trunk? Should be able to do a .1Q sub interface. Security zone, I don't have one, so we'll say an advanced tap. No, I want to make this layer 2. Okay. No, I'm going to make this layer 3. So let's change this to be layer 3. View4. I do know there's a way to enable the interface. Link state is you can go to down if you want to. Click on that, and I'm going to go to add sub interface. We're going to say this is going to be 201. Tag is going to be 201. The virtual router is going to be default. The security zone is going to be new zone. This will be inside. Click OK there. The IP address here will be static. We'll set a 10.1.201.2/24. Click on OK. And then we're going to do another sub interface. The 202. VR is going to be default. Security zone is going to be outside. And IP address here will be 10.1.202.2/24. Okay, there. And then I'm going to have zones. I'm going to have to add a, actually no, sorry, not a zone. I need to create a, under objects, or sorry, policies, I need to create a security rule, add a security rule, and call this inside to outside. We're going to say this is going to be interzone. Source zone will be inside, destination zone will be outside, application. We're going to go ahead and say allow and click on OK. We don't really care, we just want it to work. Just to see if it's actually going to happen. And commit that. Okay, so that took appropriately. So now the trick is E15 not connected. We go back over here to network interfaces. So the interface is enabled. So we know that's working. We can go back over here to here and do a show IP interface brief VRF DC1. Yeah, there's no, I don't think the config is taking the way that we want it to. Because if it was, I see config being pushed. So we're going to click on here, actions. It's attached, the static is pending. Preview. Nexus 8, or Nexus 3, underneath the VRF context, underneath the profile. So okay, so show run VRF DC1. What we should see is a route map, and we don't. And then underneath show run interface VLAN 70, or show run section profile. What we should see underneath the profile is all these route maps, and you don't see those route maps anywhere. And then underneath the main VLAN, so VLAN 70 is going to be your VRF level config. Underneath the SVI, what you should see is this IP policy map command right here, IP policy route map RMDC1 VRF prod. You don't see that applied. So I'm going to say deploy. The route peering from firewall 1 were successfully detached. Okay, let's go ahead and say actions attach. And then we're going to say deploy. So please check the deployment history for up to date. Let's see, we're still getting a pending when I do that. So this is attached, it's still pending. So when I go back over here and I hit this up arrow again to look at the profile, I'm not seeing any of those additional configurations being pushed. So it is based off of what I'm seeing in the GUI, I don't think this is supported on virtual 9Ks. So I've tried getting it to work. This is probably as far as I've ever gotten. So I would expect to see something here and I don't. So that is the key differentiator. And if we look at the service policy and we preview that for N3, it's the same thing. The policies are there, but so in case you don't understand the flow of this, what it's basically doing is any traffic that comes in on any interface, what will end up happening is there will be, and the traffic is coming from 10.1.10 to 10.1.11, it's going to be redirected from, regardless of which switch it's attached to, it's going to be VXLAN encapsulated from whatever switch it's attached to. Let's say it's on 4. I'm going to go from 4 to 3, from 3 up to the firewall, from the firewall from one subinterface to the other, from the firewall back to Nexus 3, and then from Nexus 3 from, say, VLAN 10 to VLAN 11. That is what they refer to as service insertion. Service insertion is going to tab you or map you over to the switch that owns the firewall. So that's one of the benefits of doing a design like this, to where then you can it doesn't matter where the fabric you sit. You can have a pair of service leafs, and this is what they were commonly referred to as, you would have a dedicated pair of switches that are going to be used to ingest traffic from the fabric to redirect to either a firewall or a load balancer in order to inspect your traffic and things like that. So that's the intention of what we're trying to deploy here, but as you can see, it's not working the way we expect it to. So we're running into a pending. I'm not exactly sure why it's pending, but it is. So if I was to close this out and get out of the firewall and go back over here to the fabric and look at DC1 and dive into this, we can see that all the switches are good. 3, 4, 5, let me go ahead and say actions, recalculate and deploy. Let's see if it's going to actually register any of that config. I'm just genuinely curious to know if it's going to. Okay, so there is config. Maybe that's why it's not working. So let's give it a shot. So okay, so this is actually a good way of breaking it down. So you have all these. So on E15 is going to push the switch port trunk. So maybe that I wasn't doing all the config I needed to. It's going to have a redirect ACL. Let me go ahead and get out of the way. Underneath the VLAN 10, any traffic that comes in that's layer 3 traffic, it's going to redirect it. IP policy route map to that. It's going to call this route map right here, RMDC1 VLAN 10, which is right route map. Route map right here. So it's going to be any traffic that comes in from this guy is going to get redirected to this IP address. And then the same thing with layer 3 traffic. That's going to happen as well. We have some statistics that are going to be, it's a PBR, policy-based routing. And then underneath, we have this extra NVE interface that we're going to be pushing and stuff like that. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just see what happens. So it looks like its deployment failed. Check deployment history for more information. Okay, so what I would do is I would go to history, deployment history. So what it's saying here is on CLI command, route map, RM, this failed to execute since this command failed. So what's going to end up happening here is and I've been down this path before. So let me look at the last 100 rows. So what's happening is pull this up real quick. So we do a show run at the beginning of the process here. Yeah, PBR is unenabled on Nexus 3. What about Nexus 5? Yeah, PBR is unenabled here. So what's supposed to happen is you're supposed to throw in all these additional configurations, and it's not taking. So some of the ACLs are getting pushed. So some of it got pushed, but it's when you go to, so just out of curiosity, if you were to go to N3, what does N3 say? So it's this command here, the IP policy. So what's happening is right here. Bring this down just a little bit. So let's go to configure profile svc-net2, and then you're going to go, how would that look? Interface VLAN So what's actually essentially happening is we look at interface VLAN 10, for example, right? Underneath here, if we were to do the IP policy command underneath the SBI, the policy is missing. Right? You can't do the policy. Now, what's interesting about this whole situation, if we were to go to global config and come in here and do a feature, you can turn PBR on, right? And feature ePBR. I'm curious to see if that would make a difference. Feature SLA sender. I'm not sure if that's going to work or not, but I'm going to go ahead and give it a shot. So, show CLI history unformatted last 10. I'm going to go grab these few commands and see if that makes a difference on 4. And then we'll do 5. And then we'll do it on 6. Alright, so the idea now is if we were to go back to switches, we're going to see they're out of sync. We're going to say actions, recalculate, and deploy. Now that those commands have been pushed, at least the features are there. And we'll see if this is going to make a difference. So on Nexus 3, we have all these commands. So underneath you have the IP policy route map. So we're going to see if that makes a difference. So I'm going to go ahead and say deploy all and see if this enabling the feature PBR helped. Okay, so that's a good sign. So it worked for 4, 5, and 6. Deployment failed. Check deployment history for information. So underneath history, deployment process. Oh, okay. So that's because I made that mistake right there. So ServiceNet 1. Okay, so what I can do is go back to Nexus 3 and this guy right here. No interface VLAN 10. And let's try that one more time. So if you keep running into problems, you can recalculate and deploy and see if that doesn't fix the problem. So we're going to 21 lines. ServiceNet 2. Okay. So now that I've gotten rid of that SBI, hopefully that'll fix the problem. Let's deploy all and see what happens. Okay, successful, close. So now in sync, there we go. So now if I go back over to N3 and I do a show route map, we're going to see some stuff pushed. Okay, that's looking good. So now let's go back over here to services, firewall. Oh, in sync, that's a good sign. Moving peering, in sync attached, that looks good. Service policy, in sync attached. Permit. Okay, well, let's see what happens. Let's go back to our policies. And let me go ahead and give this a shot. I have no idea if it's going to work or not, but we're going to try. Server 31. Server 31, I'm going to talk to server 32. So I'm going to try to ping 10.1.11.1, 10.1, and then let's try to talk to 32. That worked. Okay. So now that's attached to N31 or N3. Let's go to 39. Let's ping 10.1.11.1. Can I ping my gateway? 10.1, ping my gateway, and then ping 40. Okay, let's come back over here. Let's refresh this. Yeah, see, I'm not sure when it'll actually show up. We can go over here to monitor and look at the session browser. And let me go back over here to this guy. And let me do a telnet. Actually, let me go to 40. Let me try doing this. Or, not this. Show interface status. Yeah, 5 is still showing is not connected, so that's part of the problem. Show run interface eth 1/5. For whatever reason, it's showing is not connected. It's like it doesn't detect eth 1.1. Let me try going to from 39 to 40. On 40, let's do a username is going to be admin, privilege level 15, password or secret is admin, and then we're going to go to line vty0/4, login is local. So what I'm going to do from 39 is I'm going to do a telnet to 10.1.10.40. Oh, 40. Transport input all. Try it one more time. Admin, admin. It's running a little slow, but it's still getting there. Now let's go 43 to that same device. Let's ping 10.1.10.40, and we're going to telnet to 10.1.10.40. Admin, admin. Now let's just see if there's any traffic coming through here. I don't think any traffic is actually making it through. Now let's double check the config too while we're at it on these boxes. So on Nexus 3, we're going to do a show run section profile. Okay. I see the configuration applied, but what I don't see on the SPIs, for example, I don't see the IP policy command underneath here. So show route dash map. I don't see anything getting triggered. Traffic is being allowed to pass through, right? We can clearly see that communication is happening with inside the fabric. No one's going to argue that. But if we attach switch interface status, route peering looks good, service policy looks good. So you would think everything is working the way you'd expect it to be, but for whatever reason, it's not triggering, even though we've got connectivity back and forth. So now let me go ahead and from say 45, let me ping 10.1.10.40. Let me trace route to 10.1.10.40 numerically. Yeah, see, it's going default gateway and getting routed directly where we want to go. So I don't think it's actually working. Session browser, if we were to go to logs, dashboard, monitoring, stuff like this, you would see traffic coming up here if the redirect is working the way we expect it to, but it's not. So I'm not exactly sure what else to try. This is one of those things where it's kind of weird in what it's configured with, but this is just one of those things where I think there's going to be some limitations in the fabric or in a virtual environment. I could be wrong, but that's just my take on it. So with that being said, I did test out some service insertion, but it's clearly not working. But it looks like the config and part of the config isn't taking. So let me go try this real quick. So since we're underneath here, since I have the actual config, let's look at the profile again. So the configuration that was supposed to get pushed, there should be an IP policy command there. So route map DC1, so I should be able to do this right here. So let me go here, type in configure profile DC1-VLAN 10 interface VLAN 10. Modification of a profile not allowed when profile is already applied. So what I'd have to do is go ahead and exit out of that. So let's say interface VLAN 21, for example. What I need to throw underneath here is the IP policy route map and then the name of the route map. That's what needs to get applied. So I need to apply this route map here, and that would be like for 21. If you notice, when we do this, show run section profile, underneath the SPI, right here, underneath the SPI, you don't see that command there. So the actual PBR, and actually let me just make sure that show run, beginning of it. So PBR, ePBR, and SLA sender are all turned on. So show PBR. Yeah, there's not a. Oh, so ePBR. Show ePBR policy. Statistics. Policy. There are no statistics. There's supposed to be, but it's not here. So based off what I'm seeing here, even though the configuration from Nexus dashboard got pushed to the 9 case, and even though I knew to turn PBR on because you need the feature enabled in order for PBR to work, even though I did all of that, the route map, the PBR route map doesn't get mapped to the SPI underneath the VRF. So therefore, when traffic is received, layer 3 traffic is received inside of the on the SPI to do inter-VLAN routing inside the VRF, it doesn't actually redirect the traffic. So there's no trigger to send it from, say, Nexus 4 over to Nexus 3, up to the firewall, have the firewall inspect the traffic, send it back down to Nexus 3, and then VXLAN tunnel it back to the switch that it needs to talk to. So that's not happening. So that is one of those things where I think it's an incompatibility at this point. So there's some it's a little problematic, but at least now I know the process. So it's not terribly difficult to figure out, but it's just one of those things where, like, I wish it did work, but it's not. So what do you do in this situation? Since you can't get it to work this manner, that's the ideal way to do it, right? I do know that it works on physical hardware because I work with people that have gotten it to work. Now, what I would do in a situation like this where it doesn't work in a lab and the customer does not have the requirement to have intra or inter VRF service insertion with a firewall, what would I do in that particular case? Well, in this particular case here, if the customer, and this is how I look at it, my job is not to cobble together some sort of MacGyver design and implementation to where the customer is not able to manage the environment once I have deployed it. Because one thing that I don't do for every one of my customers is time and materials or post-deployment hand-holding, right? We don't do a lot of that. At least I don't. A lot of what I do is I come up with a project is given to me to work on. I talk to the customer, figure out what they need me to do, and then I come up with a game plan as a delivery engineer to do that. I have, EVNG and some really cool tools to play with in order to figure out what all those things are that need to be done. And not to talk bad about any of my customers, but the majority of them, they come to the company that I work for on purpose because either A, they don't have the bandwidth to do it themselves, maybe they lack the technical experience or the technical expertise. Whatever the case might be, they're coming to the organization I work for us to help them with that. And what I don't like doing, and I'm clear about this, is if I was talking to a customer right now, I'd be like, okay, you can't add a firewall into Nexus dashboard. There are ways of doing service insertion, but I can't guarantee it's going to work the way that in a lab because there's limitations in my lab. I can get you the majority of the way there through the lab, testing and knowing what to do. But if you want to make it easy on yourself, I would move the firewall, attach it to one of these routers that you can have direct access to, and then you can point your traffic to it that way. And then you'd be able to route, you'd be able to do layer 3 routing up to that point. So we can go on the CSR, I can do PBR there, redirect you from the CSR to a firewall, and then we can come up with a redirection that direction. Or what would probably be even smarter is I would take these connections between Cat 8K 15 and 17, and one of these boxes I would have either in like a V-wire or a layer 2 mode. I would put a bump in the wire. I would put a Palo firewall in between these two routers. Very commonly done, by the way. And what I would do then, the Palo engineer would come in and they would do all of their security policies. Or, if they want to take it a step further, and this is, in my opinion, the better way of doing it, is I would set up routing between this box and instead of having Cat 8K 17, I'd have a Palo firewall here. And then the Palo firewall would be routed and the traffic would be, you'd have like inside zone to DC zone or something like that. Then you'd have a laundry list of policies that you would create in order to control who can talk to who and how. So that's how I would handle it. And only because of the fact that if you have if you have an overwhelming need in order to have service insertion in your VXLAN fabric, what I'm going to strongly recommend is you don't go service insertion with Nexus dashboard. I'm going to highly recommend an ACI deployment because ACI does this much better than, it's like super simple to do this in ACI. Not as much jumping around. You've got the contracts, the endpoint groups. You can do insertion with firewalls. It's so much simpler to do in ACI. So I would tell you, let's pump the brakes. Let's go ACI. Do it the right way, because that's what ACI is kind of built for. Not doing it this way. So in the event that you run into a problem and wanted to go this direction, then that's fine. You can totally do that. But it's just one of those things where while you're doing it, my goal isn't to just leave you with a pile of things that we duct taped and shoestrings and paper clipped stuff together to make something work. That's not what I like doing. To me, that's not a well engineered network, because if we have it if we get it to a place to where things work, and I put that in loose quotations, if I get you to a place where it works, what if you go in there and you're not really paying attention to what you're doing, or you accidentally goof up something and you forget a little variable that I either neglected to tell you about, didn't clearly explain to you, or what have you, and you screw something up, and then you're calling me to come fix it. I don't want to leave anybody in that position. I would much rather have a firewall placed somewhere to where it's not going to, and then you having to figure out where Nexus dashboard to do something. I would much rather not do that to a customer engineer and leave them in a spot where they're like, okay, I can handle that. Because at the end of the day, once I'm done doing my job, I'm handing what I built with you over to you. I give you a bunch of documentation. Here you go. If you have any questions on anything, feel free to email me and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, this is your baby now. Like, I've helped you set it up. My goal is to help you birth your baby, give you the first couple days help, and then once that's done, I'm like the hospital. I hand you everything that you need to do in order for that project to be successful post deployment, and we're done. We do project completion. It's your network to support. That doesn't happen with everybody. We do have a lot of customers that will come to us on a per project basis or a per statement of work basis, and then we'll have also time and material type, where they'll buy a block of hours from us, and we will advise them on things and stuff like that, and they'll be able to tap into the resources that we have as an organization and go from there. So that's essentially where we go for it. So even though it's sort of working, right? It's like the configuration took and we deployed and I made some adjustments and everything seems to be operational. The redirection isn't working. So why? I don't know. Not a clue. Couldn't tell you why it's not working. Well, that's not true. I'm pretty sure I know exactly why it's not working. The policy map isn't, the PBR process isn't working. So if the PBR process isn't working, then redirection can't occur. So you can't punt the traffic to the firewall. So again, knowing that that's the case, and I was pretty sure that was the problem I ran into last time, but this is like gives me verification that I was right. It's like validation that my thoughts were correct. I would move this guy up here to this guy right here, or somewhere in the middle. And then that would take over the operations of the network. So you'd be passing through a firewall, and I'm still going to recommend that. That's the best way to do it. So when I go to this design right here, I'm not a big fan of this to begin with, without ACI. If you want to do intra-fabric communications through a firewall, ACI is the way to go, hands down. So, so with that being said, that's kind of where I'm sitting with that. If you have any questions, please leave a comment in the comment section below. It does not work. I'm actually I'm gonna edit this video so that I'm at an hour and 45 minutes now. I'm gonna chop this video at the end of getting communication set up, right before I got the firewall spun up. Chop this video up and put at the beginning of it that, hey, what I'm about to show you will not work post deploy testing, but I walk you through what it would look like if it was going to work. So that is it. This series is done. As you can see, the way that we got it working, everything's operational. I had to make a couple of adjustments here and there, but I did what I had to do. So we are good to go. And then now that this is done, my goal now is to switch gears and start showing you guys NSXT and all that good stuff that goes along with it. So if you have any questions, please leave a comment in the comment section below, and I will catch all of you in the next video.